to begin with a question. Does anybody know what famous and incredibly important world event happened on May 1st of this year? And shout it out if you know. Okay, that is the day that Osama bin Laden was killed. And I'd like to share a bit of a revelation that I had that day that really sort of impacted my thinking. It was about 11 p.m. that night, and I went down after I had read the news and saw all the headlines. I went down and talked to my friends, and we reminisced for an hour or so about what a sort of momentous occasion it was. So I headed back upstairs, had a lot of homework to do, and out my window I heard a group of drunken athletes singing the national anthem. And for some reason, as silly as it sounds, that sort of event got me thinking about the ethical standards of patriotism. For some reason, I thought, these people are sort of, celebrating the fact that this man died. What does that have to do with nationalism? What is nationalism? Why do Americans love their country? And the main reason that I came up with was history. The concept basically that America has a sort of moral history. America has a righteous history, and therefore America is a good country. And to a degree that's true. The things that we were taught in high school about America defending the world against Nazism and communism, they were true. But there is a darker side that we usually do not mention in history books or in our public discourse. For instance, I never learned, and it disturbed me to hear, that in the year 1900, after defeating the Spanish in the Philippines, America set up an even more brutal colonial regime that created camps that were not unlike the concentration camps that made the 20th century famous. I never learned in high school that in 1953 the American government overthrew a democratically elected regime in Iran and gave that country an absolute monarch, which was later overthrown by Islamic fundamentalists. In that way, the United States played a pivotal role in the creation and maintenance of Islamic fundamentalism. And it certainly was never mentioned in the history books that Ronald Reagan, who now half the country worships, supported a series of dictatorial regimes in Latin America. For instance, in El Salvador, American-financed death squads killed about 2,000 people. In Nicaragua, the Contra rebels, who were considered standards of democracy and freedom, ended up killing tens of thousands of people. And in Guatemala, worst of all, we supported a government that murdered about 200,000 people. And this is not some revisionist left-wing history I'm reading. I read this in the Washington Post. And these are sobering facts. You hear this and you think, maybe America isn't such a good country. And if that's what you think I'm trying to get across to you, you're totally wrong. I really do think America is a great country. And in fact, I would even go so far as to say that we are probably the strongest world power for democracy that has ever existed. But the point is, it becomes hard. It becomes hard to love your country unconditionally. It becomes hard to say, this is America, this is my homeland, when across the seas we're causing hundreds of thousands of lives to end. I think there is a better standard. I truly believe that. And that would be the ethical standard. I'm not here to tell you what that is. I can't tell you what morality is or what ethics is. But I do know that it seems better to follow your heart than to follow your country. It may seem hypocritical for some. Let's call this fair weather patriotism. Whenever, some people might say, whenever America does good things, side with them. Whenever America does bad things, act against them. That seems hypocritical, in my opinion. But it is a damn sight better, if you'll excuse my language, than simply loving your country unconditionally, with no pretenses, with no thought to humanity or to religion or to any ideology. Now, one of my favorite authors, George Orwell, wrote in 1946 in his essay Notes on Nationalism that nationalism is the belief that human beings can be classified like insects and that whole blocks of millions or tens of millions of people can be classified as good or bad. but secondly, the habit of identifying oneself with a single nation or unit, placing it beyond good and evil, and recognizing no other duty than that of advancing its interests. Ladies and gentlemen, if we accept Orwell's definition, then we cannot simultaneously be moral people and unconditionally love our country. Thank you very much.